ESPN2, ESPNU, Sirius XM 80, the ESPN app. You could be a part of the Unsportsmanlike Nation on the Dr. Pepper call-in line at 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. ESPN Nation presented by Dr. Pepper. It's not college football season without the delicious taste of an ice-cold Dr. Pepper. The ones fans deserve, along with Michelle Smallman. Chris Canty, Evan Cohen with you. Wow!
Speaking of what fans deserve,
We didn't expect that.
Packers fans deserved a lot better than what they saw last night.
Oh, my God, did we not expect that?
That was an embarrassment.
Brutal.
Talk about opposite ends of the spectrum in 4 days, right? You got the highest of highs when you had the 17-point comeback against the Saints, and then your team goes out and does that?
Maybe they were riding too high?
I guess so. I don't know. But that was absolute embarrassment, Ed.
34-20, the Lions beat the Packers last night, and it wasn't really that close. I mean, it was 27-3 at the half. 27-3 at the half. Jordan Love looked awful early on in this game. Even Jared Goff, who threw an early interception, Packers had opportunities, and then boom, Jared Goff obviously did his job, 19 of 28, 210, a touchdown and a pick, and it was really all about the running game. David Montgomery, there was questions about whether or not he was going to play last night. 32, 121, 3 touchdowns. They just dominated on the ground. Detroit is now 3-1, including wins on the road at Arrowhead, on the road in Lambeau, and yeah, the Packers 2-2. On the whole, they are kind of who we thought they would be, right around hovering around, that 9-8, 8-9, maybe 10-7 mark. But boy, did they get their butts kicked last night.
Yeah, if the Packers took the cheese. No pun intended.
No, there was pun intended.
No, there wasn't a pun intended. Seriously, this is something that Bill Parcells talks about all the time, especially when it comes to young players. You never as good as what people say you are. And this team has been hearing all week long, even though it's a short week, they were great. It was a great second half comeback. Jordan Love, he's top 10 in QBR, top 5 in touchdown passes. They had the special on Prime before the game talking about Packers fans celebrating 3 decades of top tier quarterback play and how they're hoping Jordan Love is the next one in line, and so far so good. And then they went out and they got their butts kicked. And I know everybody's going to focus on the defensive side of the ball. They gave up 200 yards of total offense in the first quarter, 27 points in the first half. That's the most points the Lions have scored in a Packers-Lions game in their 188-game history in the first half. That's an embarrassment. But you know what set that up? The offense being awful. Because outside of the field goal on the opening drive, which was set up by a turnover created by the defense, the drive chart for the Green Bay Packers goes as follows. 3 and out, pick, 3 and out. Then you had a punt after 5 plays because of a penalty that gave them a first down, and then it was the end of the half. The first down that the Packers offense had that was not due to penalty came with 7 seconds left in the half. They had 21 yards of offense in the first half. 21. Like, what are you supposed to do? Defensively, you're on the field the entire first half. Of course you're going to give up yards. Of course you're going to give up points. At some point, the Packers offense has got to do something. They can't continue to put their defense up against the 8 ball because they have these slow starts. They have the 3rd worst first half scoring differential behind the Chicago Bears and the New York Jets. That's not the company that you want to be keeping, but that's where the Green Bay Packers offense continues to put this team, and that's just not good enough from Love. That's not good enough from LaFleur. That's not good enough from anybody on that side of the ball.
Yeah, those are not 2 teams you want your name mentioned with, the Jets and the Bears, especially when it comes to offense. It's interesting how our expectations for the Packers have shifted from preseason to now. Week to week, things have been different because I looked at the Packers heading into the season, and I thought as long as they can emerge competitive and that you really feel like Jordan Love is the guy, it's a successful season. I don't think many people saw the Packers winning a Super Bowl. But then because of the erosion in the division around them and Jordan Love looking better than we expected early on and this team having some early success, our expectations shifted for this team, which I don't know if it's necessarily fair for us to have that reaction because, as you said, Evan, they are proving to be who we initially expected them to be. He's a young quarterback. It's a youngish team, and they're going to have ebbs and flows like this.
Well, it's funny. I had no intention of defending the Packers today, but now I think I'm going to because
I love it.
Well, no, here's why. Because you triggered a thought for me. We watched this game last night. We watched the Detroit Lions beat up on the Packers at Lambeau. And we think, well, Lambeau is an impossible place to play. The fans are unbelievable. This is a Thursday night game. Everybody's watching. This is supposed to be that coming out party for Jordan Love. And we say, I just said it, Small said it, they are kind of who we thought they would be, which is hovering around that 8-9, 9-8 mark. You mean the same thing they were last year? with a Hall of Fame quarterback. So you rid yourself of a Hall of Fame quarterback, which may not be a good thing, but the reality is financially, it's easier to build a team with Love's salary than it is with Rodgers' salary. And if they're going to give you the same thing and Love's going to be at a lesser price, you still have the hope long term. So if we're saying, now the division helps here because the Bears and the Vikings stink, but if we're saying worst case scenario, they hover around 9-8, 8-9, that is still a major win for them this season based on the fact that they had that QB change.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers was 6-10 in his first year following Hall of Famer and Brett Favre. So there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve in terms of this becoming Jordan Love's team. But I'm talking about the overall mentality. I mean, they asked Matt LaFleur at halftime what needs to be different. He said, listen, we need to see who's going to fight. That's not what your head coach is supposed to be worried about.
No.
Like, head coaches shouldn't have to coach effort and intensity. That's table stakes. That's requisite for the job. You are an NFL player. And last night, it was clear that they didn't have the energy level that they should have for a team that's at home coming off of the kind of win that we saw on Sunday against the New Orleans Saints. That was a surprise to me to see Green Bay fall flat the way that they did, and you can't help but question the leadership in that locker room, and it starts with the quarterback. Let
me also bring up one other thing, because I now, as a national radio host, which I'm very fortunate, we're all very fortunate to have this seat right here, and as an ex-quarterback in high school, failed at that. I feel like now I am very qualified to say something. I'm going to give a message to the Detroit Lions, okay? This is your message right now. Draft a quarterback in the first round of this year's draft. You know why? Because you actually have a quarterback. Jared Goff is good. We have said it. We have figured it out. Ladies and gentlemen, draft quarterbacks when you want them, not when you need them. The Detroit Lions have a guy. He's under contract for next year. He's more than good enough to help them win this year. I'm not suggesting they're winning a Super Bowl, but this is the perfect time to draft a quarterback when you want one. This franchise, I can't believe I'm saying this. Javonte Lawrence is going to love this. One of our producers, a Lions fan. They are set up for years to come. They have good young players everywhere you look. Dan Campbell, their head coach, is way better than I anticipated he would be. I fell into the trap that he wanted me to fall into of thinking he's a meathead because of the kneecaps and he's going to eat you and all that stuff.
The coffee order.
Yeah, the guy knows football. And so guess what? Goff is the transition. Goff is the Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes. You have the guy. This is a team for years to come. Draft a quarterback, believe in Goff, and don't play the quarterback. CC, the Detroit Lions have figured it out.
Oh, yeah, it's the perfect time to introduce a young quarterback over the next couple of years. So it makes all the sense in the world. But looking at 2023, I think based on last night's performance, we have to start asking the question, are the Detroit Lions right there with the other three elite teams in the NFC, that being the 49ers, the Eagles, and the Dallas Cowboys? I think that's a legitimate conversation.
I gotta put you on that.
That's a legitimate conversation to start having right now based on their performance, because we said going into this game, their offense can score points with anybody. What I didn't expect was that their pass rush would be able to heat up Jordan Love the way that they did. I mean, you talk about 13 pressures, 11 quarterback hits, and 5 sacks. If your offense can tilt the game by being able to go up double digits early, that pass rush led by Aiden Hutchinson and McNeil and Houston, all those dudes, they can get after the quarterback. They can break down the pocket. We saw it against Pat Mahomes on the road in Arrowhead. We saw it again last night against Jordan Love in Lambeau. That is going to travel. You can run the football. You can rush the passer. That's a formula for success in the NFL, whether you're playing at home or whether you're on the road.
And when we talk about the toughness battle, don't you feel like the Detroit Lions are going to win that?
Oh, yeah.
They're going to win the toughness battle.
Yeah.
I was telling Cece in the makeup room, shout out to the makeup room where we have our best sports conversations.
No doubt.
I was watching this game are what the New York Jets hoped that they would be. A team that and an organization that has not had success in a long time, and they were hoping to change the culture. They were hoping to instill a culture of toughness and a culture of winning. The Jets put all of those eggs in Aaron Rodgers' basket. Holistically, they did not do it. They had Aaron Rodgers change it for them. You removed him from the equation. They're not the same team, obviously. Mm-hmm. The Detroit Lions have institutionally changed who they've been, and that's all due to Dan Campbell. This is a team that has an identity. This is a team that has confidence. This is a team that is built to win. And I don't know if I would put them on the same level as the San Francisco 49ers, who feels like they're in a little bit of a different weight class in the NFC. The Eagles are getting there, but I would put them right there with the Dallas Cowboys, wouldn't you?
That's what I was going to go to. That's where I got to put your feet to the fire. Because you have been, Smalls is right, you have been critical of the Cowboys. I'm going to put words in your mouth. I think you think the Lions may be better than the Cowboys. I think that Chris Canty, on a neutral site game, theoretically, Lions-Cowboys, I think you'd pick the Lions.
I think the Lions have a better offensive line.
That's what I'm saying.
I do. I think the Lions have a better offensive line. And they didn't have Taylor Decker last night. It feels like they have a better offensive line.
Third best team in the NFC, Detroit Lions?
I think they're in the conversation for it. It's a coin flip right now based on what we saw from the Lions last night and what we saw from Dallas out in the desert against the Cardinals. How could you not feel that way? How could you not feel like this would be an interesting matchup between those two teams? So, I mean, I'm not going to jump out of the window just yet. I want to see them follow it up and be able to stack wins. I still can't get the loss in overtime to Seattle out of my mind when they allowed them to score 38 points or something like that. So
still, the one loss is an overtime loss.
I understand that. My thing is this. We all know the Cowboys' pass rush is dominant. It's dynamic. We know their defense is elite, although we got to see what happens with that defense after Trey Diggs. But I guess my point is the Detroit Lions ain't far off from what the Dallas Cowboys are. Jared Goff ain't far off from what Dak Prescott is. Amon-Ra St. Brown ain't far off from what CeeDee Lamb is. So we keep having these conversations about the personnel and the coaching and all of those different things. The Lions are right there. And so as they continue to go through this season, can they forge an identity that will allow them to compete with those upper echelon teams in the conference? That's what I want to see. But based on what we saw last night, they're off to a hell of a start.